The void is an experience you will be having upon the execution of the flash of light which is coming. It will be as if all has separated from itself and you are at once suspended in mid-air in some circumstances, yes, as if all has become quiet and still. And you will find yourselves separated and segregated from one another in your own experience, isolated, alone. All will be cared for, all are well. Do not fear for those you love. They are also held. Within this experience, you are brought to an invitation. You are raised to a frequency, a higher pitch of being, and are given the opportunity to move forward into, to release and allow this experience to unveil for you.
And Tucker, welcome back on Just Tap In. Just as we started off last time, what are you most excited about right now in your life?
Oh my gosh, I think I'm most excited about activation. I feel like right now there's a lot of intensity in the world and people are being activated. And I think I'm always reminded that it's like when things are really still and quiet, there's not a lot of change. But when things are disruptive, and I know some of that is bad change, some of it is stuff we're like, why is this happening? But it's activating us, right? And activating us gives us the opportunity to transform. So I see it all around me. I see everybody going through stuff. And I know it's like I offer my heart and my sympathy, and I understand it's hard, but I also see it as, wow, this is a time of massive transformation. And I'm excited. Individual transformation in individual people's lives. Yeah. So I am excited about activation.
Yeah, because the first time we were here, you were speaking into how the angels have been activating you and upgrading you for many, many years now.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to know, because you've said before that they're always stretching and challenging you in different ways. So what about right now, in this moment of your life, are they stretching you toward and really challenging you right now?
Oh gosh, for me, it's always a healing journey. Like there's never a time that I'm not focused on what am I healing, And then there's always new ways that I see myself. Like a recent wound that came up and a lot of my wounds have been through relationship. That's been, if you look at your own like astrology chart, you'll see that like this is going to be your path of growth. And my path of growth, one of my major path of growth, has been through relationship. And I'm in a great relationship now. And, but I have baggage from past relationships. And I see in my dreams and I see where I am in my life. And I think, okay, am I clear? Am I done with that? But there's always layers. And I just had this amazing epiphany the other day where I saw in the dream that I was still holding, like I had this, it was really interesting because I in the dream, I had this little backpack or a little suitcase, and a suitcase, backpacks or suitcases are always bad in a dream. It's like baggage. It's just like the thing of baggage. It actually means you've got baggage. And I had it was a small suitcase, so I'm giving myself a little credit there, but it had 2 pieces of burnt metal. And in the dream, there was a man who's being very, very nice to me. And I'm thinking in the dream, well, I better not trust him. I better be safe, right? And I'm putting the suitcase in the back of the van. And it's showing me I've been burnt. So I have this baggage, and it's like I've worked through layers and layers and layers. But the fascinating thing about this one is all it takes is like we all have this, and it's the self-awareness to be present with it and to understand that the wounding is there because of genuine, like something happened, right? There was genuinely a hurt that occurred. And so the wounding is a natural outcome of that. But the fascinating thing is normally when I stumble across my wounds, I'm like, yes, let's get rid of this, because I recognize that's a bad feeling and I want to get rid of it. So I dive right in, like, let's heal it. This one, I was like, It was like, this is my protective, cozy jacket that I want to keep on. Like, I don't want to clear this because it feels safe. And I had to realize that it's like when we set up these protections or these boundaries, it's like a brick wall that we're standing behind and we think it's keeping us safe. And we have to talk ourselves into stepping out from around the brick wall. And it's only when we do that we realize that the brick wall wasn't keeping us safe at all, that the brick wound was just reliving our wound all the time. We think of it as protection, but in fact, it's just keeping us trapped in those feelings indefinitely. And it takes a sense of like, okay, I got to take off my protections, which feels really scary and really vulnerable. But when you step out from behind it, what happens is you open up to more love. The flow increases. So you feel brighter, lighter, like you feel instantaneously better. So I had to really just almost like speaking to like my heart speaking to my head, just saying like, let it go, let it go, let it go, like step out from behind the brick wall. And I against my own instincts, which is that fear-led instinct, I did it and whoosh, the love comes through. But that's my latest. It's always something. It's always something I'm working on, but that's been my latest.
Yeah. Well, I resonate so much with you, especially with the relationships aspect, because, we talked about last time that Earth is a school, and it was a school that was open to souls that wanted to work through karmic depths
Yep.
or, really go into things that the soul needed for its own growth.
Yeah.
But then I asked you at one moment, what is the angel's main message? And you said, one, the world is changing.
Yep.
There are major events, but most importantly, that the more we hang on to the way things have been, the more close we will be to the new things that are coming.
Yeah.
So highlighting this process of letting go and allowing, speaking into that, because I feel like a lot of people are going through the same thing that, you and me both are with our relationships. It's like, how can we start something in a new consciousness if we're holding on to the way that our relationships have gone in the past and the past woundings? So let's speak into that process of letting go and allowing, and what people can really wrap their minds around and allow that process to happen.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked, because there is so often, it's like you might even know that you have a particular wound. You might feel it. You might be like, I don't want to feel this way, but I can't help it. You might think it's just part of my personality. I'm just stubborn, or I'm just cautious, right? Or I just am quick to anger. That's just who I am, but it's not. Like inside all of us is the bodhisattva somewhere in there, just being super, super zenned out, and we can access that. So when we get into these experiences, like if we think of life as everything that's inside of us is creating our reality around us. So when we run into things in our world that feel heavy, that anything that makes us feel anything other than good, if we run into, in relationship, we run into conflict, we run into hurt feelings, whatever it is, we have to recognize, okay, that hurt was not manufactured in this moment. That hurt was already inside me, that I own that hurt, that it was part of my belief system, part of my reality internally. And it came from most likely our wounding that we anchor into this life in the early years of our life. That, really it's before we're born. It's womb to age 7 is like when a lot of it gets kind of anchored in. And even if you have the most amazing parents in the world, this is part of the contract. They will help us anchor in these woundings. But even then, it can be some things that were even from before that, from past lives. So we have that inside of us. We manifest it into our relationships. And then we're like, you're the crumb who didn't put the crackers away, or whatever it is, right? Like we get upset about whatever it is. And so when that happens, if we can be present enough to be rising above the moment and to recognize and see ourselves and say, oh my gosh, I'm triggered. Like this little thing that's needling me, that's bugging me, take a step back and say, I am not feeling good. I'm feeling cranky. I'm feeling irritated. And what am I feeling? Then take a step back and identify the feeling and say, okay, try to find it. And this can be really hard for a lot of people. We are taught to fear our feelings, right? We're taught to repress our feelings. So even if you cannot feel your feelings, you can still do this, is to go into just spend time alone with the thought, with the trigger, because it's fresh. Look inside, feel inside your body. If you could put that feeling somewhere in your body, where would it go? And don't worry about being correct. You just feel in and you can say, okay, I feel a density in my left rib. Okay, great. Or I feel a heaviness in my elbow, like wherever it is. Could be in your kidney. It could be anywhere. So find that heaviness. Where does this emotion sit? And don't worry about being accurate, because chances are you probably are. And then sit with that, focus on it, and assign it a color. And you can give it any color. You can say, what is it? Like, let it come to your mind. What color is it? Is it purple? Is it green? Is it red? It's going to be whatever color you pick is perfect. It helps you to see it. So give it a color. And then as you sit in that moment, allow that emotion to build inside of you and see it as the color that's stuck down there in your liver, wherever it is. Watch it get larger and feel it. Try to feel even if you have to feed it for a few minutes about how irritated you are about those darn crackers on the counter, whatever it was, just really and try to manufacture as much of that irritation as you possibly can. Try to make it so big that it fills your entire body, where that color, if you made it purple, make that your whole body becomes purple. And you're just trying to force, feel. And then try to keep feeling it so much that it moves outside of your body and fills your aura. And then if you try to blow it up and keep feeling it as strong as you can, what you will find is at a certain point, it becomes really hard to feel it. It's almost like you can't grasp it. You're kind of reaching for it, like you're trying to get it, and it starts slipping between your fingers. And you can't grasp it anymore. And then what's happening as this is happening is you are actively clearing the feeling. And here's the thing that people need to know as they do this process, is that if you allow yourself to feel a feeling fully, it will only last for 90 seconds. That we are so afraid of our feelings, we think they're going to take us over. But they only take us over if you get lost in the story of suffering, of like, oh, I'm a victim, I'm suffering, I'm a victim. If we just feel, right? Feel it. Just try to bring it up and feel it as hard as you can without the self-sabotaging stories about victimhood. And just stay in the emotion and let that become as big as it can. It will pass. And the crazy thing is once you've moved through it, you will go back and you will try to find that feeling again, and you can't find it. It's not there anymore. And it works like hot darn. It is how we are meant to work with our emotions, how we're like our physical body is meant to process our emotions. We just don't. We tend to stick them inside the body, and we're full of them. We're full of old, dormant feelings we didn't want to have.
Yeah. I love that you said feeling the feeling fully, because a lot of spiritual teachings, or we've heard around, it's like, oh, only focus on the good feelings.
Yeah.
But then we have all these plethora of the other end of the spectrum, and we're like, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling anger, I'm feeling grief, I'm feeling all of these emotions, but we're like, no, let me focus on laughter and joy and happiness. So
right.
we're like doing half of the work.
Yeah.
You said right now that we're living in a time where it's the first time in human history where we have had access to every past life we've ever lived.
Yes.
And that's exciting, because I feel like a lot of people are uncovering many memories that they're not knowing what to do. And last time we were here, you brought up a lifetime where you were essentially a minotaur in the Atlantean civilization.
Yeah.
Was it like bullhead, human body?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, horns, the whole thing. I was massive. Yeah. Yeah.
And in that lifetime, you were shown it because they were teaching you how to fully feel your rage.
Yeah.
So going along that of getting really in tune with our emotions, what did that past life teach you about rage in specific?
Oh gosh, it's interesting because what that life was about was learning about betrayal and trust. That in that lifetime, I was huge. Like I said, I was enormous. Like probably like at least double, triple the size of a norm, but huge, tall and broad. And in the way that we fought at that time, it was all hand-to-hand combat, and I was unstoppable. And I had but I was also really unpredictable. Like I could not repress my anger, my rage. I was very like unpredictable. And so, but I had a group of men that I fought with, that these were the guys I trusted. There was 5 of us. And as I went into battle, I would be in the front and they would be around the sides and behind me in my back. And they would sort of protect the back, and I would plow through. And I was just way laced to, I would lay waste to just fields of people, which is like, oh, that's terrible in retrospect, but that's what I was in that life. And
you were the Hulk of the Avengers. Put him in the front. He'll take care of it.
Which is hilarious, because in this life I'm like very small and I have none of that, but so we live all aspects, right? But in any case, then later I was flashed forward in that life, and I saw that I was in an army, and the leaders of the army, like we were getting to a time of peace where we were like done with the campaign, and they didn't need me anymore. And I was too chaotic. I was a liability, and they decided that they were going to kill me. And my the guys that I relied on didn't warn me. They didn't tell me. And I felt extremely betrayed. And in the healing of that past life, so that I was killed, and I felt like they knew and they didn't tell me. But I know in retrospect, like I went back to heal that life, and what I realized in the healing was that there was nothing they could do. That if they had told me, they would have been killed too, and that I would not have survived. That you can't hide a giant minotaur running through the countryside. Like it's an obvious thing, you know what I mean? It's not like me being told was going to do any good. It would have just ended up like I would have probably, got into a big fight with everybody there, and it would have been a disaster. So what could they do? So it was that understanding of coming to peace with their decision not to tell me, and releasing the emotion of that life, the feeling of betrayal, letting that go. So yeah, so that was what the lesson was for me. And then in this life, they called that life back to me because of the fact that I don't experience rage in this life. It's not something I've had access to. So they gave me a moment where they put me back into that in meditation. They put me back into that body, into that moment, and let me wrestle with it and let me feel what that felt like. And it really helped because it made me understand people that normally I wouldn't. You know what I mean? I wouldn't understand what it's like to totally lose control of your emotions. And I now know, I get it. Like I really get it now because I got to feel what it's like.
And it also makes you then more telepathic with the people around you that are dealing with those really rough or exalted emotions.
Yeah.
And so then why do you think that right now we're remembering these lifetimes? Is it because we're moving past the karmic debt that we were talking about, going towards something new?
Yeah. So normally when we come into an incarnation, we will choose that we design our life very, very carefully, right? We have, and literally, like I actually had a dream showing me doing this where I was working with my guide, and I had, the two of us were standing next to each other, and I had basically a film strip that we're watching, which is the life of the movie that I was creating. I mean, the movie of the life I was creating. And we're looking at it scene by scene, and we're trying to make a specific benchmark, a specific event that needs to happen in this life that I'm currently in. And so we talk amongst ourselves, and then we say, okay, what if we try it this way? So then I jumped into the life and I acted it out, and then I jumped out and we talked and we said, how did that go? What do you think? Should I say it differently? Should I use these words? What if I stand this way? What if I do this right before? We changed all these different elements, jump back in, rehearse it again, and see what happens. And we did this over and over and over and over again, which is fascinating, right? So it's showing me in that we have very specific events in this life that are like, these are the nodes that connect everything else. These are the parts we have to pass through in order to achieve our life purpose, the intention that we plan for a life. But, and then sometimes in terms of making those happen, we will choose a particular couple of past lives. We'll say that there's, okay, and I need to experience, in order to have my life go the way I want it to, I needed to experience betrayal so I could clear betrayal in this life. So I'm going to orchestrate an experience of betrayal in order to bring that energy into my body when I get here. Because when you come in, you're a pure soul. How do you anchor in these energies you want to clear? You draw on specific past lives and you weave those into this incarnation. So you might pick 2 or 3 that are the ones that are going to have the strongest relationship to what it is you want to work on. So normally in all of our past lives, we had access to just a handful of our past lives. But this life is, all bets are off, because this is the grand finale. Like this is the, like the golden moment that where
it's not a rehearsal anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Where they basically opened the Akashic records and they said, have at it, right? Free for all. Heal as much as you want to heal. And there's no restriction. It used to be the Akashic record was closed except for just a few people who could channel it. But now it is open season. So you can clear as much as you want to clear. And that's magic, because this is one of the easiest places. I know it doesn't sound like it because it's here that everybody talks about, yeah, Earth School is super dense. It is super difficult, but it is easier to heal ourselves here because we confront ourselves. It's black and white. It's right in front of us. Whereas everywhere else, and you'll know, like as you go more and more and more, as you know, and you know this, as you go further and further on your healing journey, it becomes harder and harder to see your wounds because they get softer and softer and softer. So the higher we go in our frequency, the harder it is for us to encounter the wounding. Here, it's like, boom, there it is, right? I'm confronting my, whatever it is. It hurts, right? It's physical pain. And that is how we grow here. So this is a chance, and it's not forever. It's just for now.
Yeah. And it's so funny because sometimes the more we have done the work or the healing, the more we think, oh, I already healed that. And then all of a sudden we'll be confronted with a relationship that triggers something very strongly and it amplifies it. And I think the initial thing for the ego is it says, oh, I backtracked. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
not as evolved as I thought I was. But
Hmm.
I think that these wounds, they get amplified very loudly
Yeah.
so we can really pierce the veil and go deep into it. And I think
Yeah.
those wounds may, I don't know if you agree with this, but they may always be there, like lingering, but they're still teaching us
Yes.
throughout the lifetime.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that it's possible to fully heal a wound and move beyond it completely?
It's a great question because so here's an interesting thing that happened when I was very early on my journey, and I went to a channeling intensive like 2 week program, and at the end of it, they had us channel for each other, and then they brought in absolute strangers and had us channel for the strangers, and so it was great. It was a really great like out the nest you go, here you go, and but when I channeled for one of the guys, I immediately picked up on the relationship he had with his father. And I'm like, well, you've got your dad was really demanding, and this is what it was like, and this is how it made you feel. And it was all this stuff was coming in. And his response was, well, no, because I've cleared all that. And he was, no, 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 that's not true. I've cleared all that. But the funny thing is, if it's cleared, then why did I see it? If it was so clear, how did I accurately describe every piece of it if you've already cleared it? But so then what I realized is even when we clear a wound, the imprint of the wound is still there. And I think that's on purpose. And
Mm.
definitely there's layers, like just like for me the other day where I had to clear yet another layer. Like I have worked on relationship wounds in depth for years and years and years. And then boom, here's another one. Look at that. So there's layers. But I think even after we clear 100%, that there's still an imprint. And I think the reason for that is then you will attract to you those people who share the same wounding and you know how to get through it. You have done the healing. So you have the keys, the passage that they need. And so they will gravitate to you and they'll be like, okay, I see in you, even though it's not there anymore, I see the imprint of exactly what I need.
Mm. And that is exactly why healing is a collective process, not an individual. Because a lot of
Yeah.
people be like so focused on their own healing, but
Yeah.
knowing that the more they focus on their own healing, it then just ripples out
Yes.
into your family, your friends, people that may not even know you.
Yeah.
They will feel the frequency of that healing and be able to tune into it for themselves.
Yeah.
Speaking about our angelic team, and we all have connection with different ascended masters or angels. I know that recently a new guide came in for you,
Mm-hmm.
calling
Mm-hmm.
itself the Mother of Creation.
Yeah. She's
That is
amazing.
very beautiful to know because we've also had conversations with other people that are talking about that the creator is a feminine energy.
Yeah.
So what have you learned about this Mother of Creation that stepped into you and gave you some lessons recently?
Yeah, thank you for asking. My understanding from her is that it's just like with us. There's a masculine and a feminine in creation. That it's almost like the thought of the soul comes from what we would call the creator, and then that thought becomes embodied inside the body of the mother of creation. And so she births souls from outside of her, like and so she knows, here's what's amazing. She knows the song of you. It's almost like she puts you into music. So she takes that concept from the source or from the creator, and then she turns it into the song of who you are. And then that is birth. And she showed me all kinds of images of like, first she showed it coming out of the body. Then she showed me her walking through the sky with the stars, souls coming out of her feet. Like it was, because she was, it was amazing to see. But she is the energy of renewal. So she is in this idea that nothing, like energy never dies, right? Energy is just transformed. And so she is that energy of renewal, that we always have the ability to go back to her and to be renewed. And she knows that it's almost like the source code. She knows the at the root, who are you truly? Underneath all the experiences and the wounding and this, where did you start? Right? The moment of your beginnings. And you can always go back to that and then be recreated. But the two big themes I think I get from her over and over and over again is this idea of renewal and the idea of freedom. And the concept that freedom and love are like intertwined like this, that we have free will because we are loved. That when you love something, it's the whole thing, when you love something, let it go. Like that is spot on. that it is that idea that when you are truly loved, you have freedom, that you're given the
Wow.
right to express who you are and to be what you are.
Mm. So if we are in a position where we don't feel that we have that freedom, is it because underlying there is not that full energy of love behind it?
Yeah, and I would say I think this again, really insightful question, because I think you would say, well, what if you're in a relationship? I think it's not an all or nothing. I think that in relationship, we use relationships to learn about ourselves. They're one of our greatest teachers. And so you may be in a partnership with someone who gives you enormous freedom in some areas, but in other areas is like doesn't like something about who you are, who says, okay, when we're with our friends, can you not do that thing you do? Can you not talk about channeling angels or whatever it is? You know what I mean? It's like when you're with other people because it embarrasses me or
Don't make
whatever.
those alien jokes, please.
Right, exactly. Right. And you're like, but that's who I am. I want to be free. And they're like, no, don't, because you embarrass me, or because whatever, or because it makes me feel small, or because it makes me feel like they're coming through their wounding. So in that, when somebody is in their own wounding, a part of their heart is closed. And when our heart is closed, we cannot feel love. So the heart closes because of the fact that we don't feel love, right? With the wounding, we close. It's basically, we got wounded, we close it up. Love can't get in or out. So, but it's not an all or nothing thing. There may be places where the heart is open and the love flows really easy and really, really free. But there's other places where the heart is like, mm. And so that's, I think, the challenge we run into a lot of times in relationships is someone will say, well, I don't feel loved. Well, if we can't, often the reason we don't feel loved is because our heart is closed and we can't let the love in, or because we're bouncing up against each other's wounding and you're both closed.
And
Yeah.
you're just like bouncing off each other
Yeah.
instead of
And
opening
they're
up.
saying
And
it's your fault I don't feel love. When in fact, the only way to change the dynamic is to learn to open our own heart, to let go of whatever it is that we're holding on to shift the dynamic, to let in whatever love is there, right?
yeah,
And to then reflect that back to the other person. Yeah.
yeah. One beautiful thing is allowing ourselves to speak into that. If one of us or both of us is closed, I've often just stated very, explicitly, like, I feel a wall between us. What can we do
Yeah.
about it? Because you're like literally speaking on, there's an energetic barrier that now, becoming aware of it, you can work on it together to see how can we bring that wall down
Yeah.
and get also to a space of neutral, being
Yeah.
neutral and opening our hearts again to the other person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yes. And I think I call that a meta conversation. It's a conversation about the conversation, and it gives us that spiritual perspective, right? Where rather than being in the thick of it and fighting over about, yeah, but whose turn was it to take out the garbage, and going around and around and around in circles about, like, it's just fighting about the thing, instead taking a step back and saying, the meta conversation, which is that let's talk about the conversation. I am trying to express myself this way. You're trying to express yourself this way. I feel like we're just at a wall. Like you said, we're at an impasse. Can we talk about the impasse? Let's talk about the wall. Yeah. And
Hmm.
that's genius. I think that is how we make progress together.
Yeah. And it was so interesting yesterday. I think it was because I was going to speak to you today, but I usually see a lot of number sequences, and I, associate it with like angel numbers. But yesterday was like every hour I was seeing a triple sequence. I was like, what is going on? And I was like, oh, wait, I'm going to speak to the angels tomorrow. But I know that
It's so funny.
everyone receives signs differently. And I know for someone like you, like you're clairvoyant, so you can see the angels. Some people hear, some people feel. What are some common signs for us to know that the angels are with us and around us and supporting us in our journey?
I love that. Yeah, they are all the time. Like, the angels are literally, there's way more angels than people. And I think if we just accept that idea that there's so many angels, and there are angels that are incarnated, but that we cannot see them because that are at a higher vibration, and then there's angels that are not incarnated. So there's literally angels everywhere around us, and they're like an essence. They're like an essence that is fluid, that comes into form and then comes back again. They're everywhere. But in terms of how to experience them, there's a couple guidelines I would definitely suggest. The first thing I would say is is when you want to, if you want to try to have a feeling like a conversation, an interaction with the angels, raise your vibration first. And the easy way to do that is to get settled, get quiet with yourself, and then go into the experience of gratitude and just meditate on gratitude. And if you are coming at it from a position where you're just like, you're in a really bad mood or you're in a really dark place, you can start by fake smiling. And fake smiling actually distributes a hormone in your body that helps to raise your vibration. So if you just sit there and just fake smile, just plaster it on, make yourself smile, even if you don't feel it, give it a couple minutes. Eventually it'll get easier and easier to smile, then go into gratitude. And then if you just start focusing on gratitude, just think of the things that sometimes, like an easy one for me is, do you feel gratitude? Like, I love tuning into the feeling I get when I give someone else a gift that they love or that they really needed. That activates my heart, and it is an easy one for me to tap into, to begin to feel the good feeling. Think and meditate on that and let that fill you up. The goal is to fill you up with good feelings. So that is raising your vibration. So once you're in that state of higher vibration, that's when you try to talk to them. And so, and then talking to them, you need to speak to angels out loud. That's the first thing, is that they can understand, like, they will know sometimes what you're thinking and all this kind of stuff, but it's part of our respecting our free will that we have to put things into a actual thought. The thought form has to be physicalized into words. Then they can take action. So
what about writing?
Writing works too, as long as, and you can even, if you're in a public place and you don't want to be like, I'm talking to no one, as long as you kind of say it out loud in your mind, but you have to form it into words. Basically, you have to be like, I am speaking to the, you know what I mean? Like, you have to say it in your mind as if you're speaking it out loud. And as long as it's set like that, where it's done into words, then they can take action. So that would be the thing. Speak out loud. The other thing is, I would say, be very literal in what you ask, because the angels have a great sense of humor. They're actually really funny, but they don't, like, the way that we make jokes is like they will take exactly what you say verbatim. So if
no sarcasm.
No, do not use sarcasm with the angels, because they will immediately, like, they take it as you say it. So be really careful with the sarcasm. And I have so many examples of that, of when they just taken things exactly literally, and it's just really funny. But
like what?
Just the other day, my son asked a question of the angels, and he was like, yeah, but will it be permanent? And they immediately say, there is nothing permanent in the universe. They go, I mean, he didn't mean it. He just meant like in this life. And they had this whole discussion about, we're sorry, but there's nothing like, the permanence does not exist in the universe. And they kept, as if he was serious, but they took it very literally. Really funny one is when one time I was on retreat. I was leading a retreat, and I had, at the last day of retreat, I always do Q&A, where I just open up and the angels come in and everybody asks questions. It's one of my favorite things, because it's just, you never know what's going to come through, and it's often super fun and super funny, and you don't know anyways, it's just a great time. But I was in trance, angels were speaking, and one of my friends who was there at the retreat asked, what do I need to do to reach my highest and, like, my most, my enlightened self? What do I have to do? And then at the end, she said jokingly, she's like, I'm asking you for a friend, as if, like, I'm already there. I'm already enlightened.
The elf.
I'm asking for someone else. Yeah, the elf. Did I tell you this story? Oh my gosh. So funny. Yeah. So they gave her a friend in that moment. They immediately, she's asking for a friend, they brought in a friend. And that's extremely literal. So it is, so it's something to know, that you got to be very, 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 know what you're saying. Speak clearly in terms of not being sarcastic, using the precise in terms of what you're trying to ask for or what you're trying to communicate. And then in terms of the symbols or signs you might see, absolutely, you hear about asking for a feather, asking for a penny. Those work. They work like crazy. You can ask for any kind of a sign. You can say, show me, think of something that's a little bit hard to manifest. Like one time I was on the road, I said, show me something orange, because I was trying to think of what is a car color you never see. And I thought, you never see orange cars. Show me something orange. Immediately saw, like, an orange cone immediately showed up as soon as I said it. So it's like, you can ask for signs, and they will show you signs. You can ask for, if they are close to you, if you're in meditation, if you've raised your vibration, using the exercise I just described, ask them to come give you a hug. And you may feel them physically. They can come in. You might feel them as either cold, which is interesting, really cold air, oddly cold air, or a heat in the body, which is actually healing. So you might feel it as a pressure, which is the frequency as they get close. Their higher frequency feels like pressure on us. So, or tingling in various parts of the body. So pay attention to that. So depending on how you get your own information. But yeah, so this
Mm.
it's fun. It's really, really fun. But they're right there.
Hmm. It's making it a game. And, I've also asked for certain signs when I've had to make big decisions in my life, and it works. Like, that's
Yeah.
all I'm going to say. It
Yeah,
works.
absolutely. And the angel numbers, like you mentioned, are also super fun. Like I get angel numbers all the time, and I love it. Like, as it is, it's just them
Mm.
saying, "Hey, you're on track. You're doing great. Keep going." It's just them giving you that little encouragement. Some people are clairaudient, and they will hear, like they will get songs. Like they will all the time. All of a sudden, a song will pop into their head, and they listen to the lyrics, and it's like, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I needed to hear today." So they come in through all different, whatever ways they can, wherever you're receptive. Yeah. And it's interesting. I was going to add that, like, when people are in meditation, if they're trying to connect with the angels in meditation, to not be frustrated in the moment and during the meditation if you don't get a sign, because often the work we do in meditation manifests after we're done. So I had a friend of mine was one of my clients, and she before we had our session, she'd been out walking that day, and she was part of my Golden Circle program back when I offered that. It's not something I do anymore, but she knew we had an appointment scheduled, and she'd gone out walking with a friend, and there had been this swirl of leaves, this crazy swirl of leaves that happened, and then they just rained all around her. And she told her friend, she said out loud, she said, "Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be amazing if that was angels? Like if that was the angels, they were just raining all around her." And it was just amazing seeing them swirl, and it was amazing. She just had this kind of throwaway comment. So then she comes into the session, and she asks them, and she says, "Well, when will I be able to see you? Will I ever be able to see you?" And they said, "You already did. We were there today in the leaves. That was us. We were raining all around you." And
Wow.
and I had no idea, like, as that came through, like afterwards I came out, and she's like, "Oh my gosh." And she told me the story about what happened that day, and like what an amazing, beautiful confirmation, that she
Mm.
received, that yes, in fact, that they showed up in the leaves. So it's that, and then she wasn't in meditation there. She was just out walking, having a walk. So it's often what happens in reality. You do the meditation to strengthen the connection, and to speak to them, but know that they might show up anywhere in your life.
Mm. So meditation is a non-negotiable tool to connect with the higher realms, would you say?
I believe so, but it doesn't. I'm not a strict person in terms of meditation, because I am one of those people that when I first started meditating, I fell asleep instantly. I'd sit down and I'd be conked out. And so the way I got over that is I did walking meditation. So people have to do what works for them. So what I did is I would go. I have an elliptical, so I can have like handlebars that I can hang on to, and I would move and do the meditation while in motion, and that would keep me awake. And then I found that once I realized, okay, when I'm in this kind of non-thinking motion, that's when my mind can drift, and I can let it go, and I can let loose. So then I noticed I could capture that same state whenever I was doing like meaningless work, like folding laundry or doing dishes. I could enter that same state. So, okay, great. This is also walking meditation. And then,
Mm.
so it's like starting to you got to work with it to see what works. Anything that helps you to release from, it's almost like getting to a pace of stillness inside. And however you get there, it does not matter. So you don't have to be sitting with your legs crossed and your fingers in the right position, and none of that. You do what works for you. But for me, it was sleeping was the issue. So I started doing it with the motion, and it made all the difference. But yeah, so any way you get there is good.
Beautiful. And what do you say, Anne, if we raise our frequency and open the space for the angels to come through and ask them some questions about these major shifts that are going on right now in the
Sounds
world?
great. All right, let's do it. You ready to ground?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and drop down from your tailbone, a nice thick root that goes down through the floor and down into the ground. And follow it down with your mind as it grows and extends, growing deeper and deeper into the earth. Following it down where it's dark and cool, extending longer and longer. And follow it all the way down to the very, very center of the earth. And when it reaches that center point, feel the root sprout and anchor itself in. And as it does, notice that the root is pulling gently and becoming taut. And feel as that tautness moves all the way up the root, and then all the way up your spine, anchoring you securely to the earth. All right, I'll go ahead and bring in the angels. Blessings, we are within. We bring to you now a contortion of events, a hailstorm of experiences that are underway already. There are many things surrounding you now that you did not count upon and will occur that are beyond the orchestration of what is known already. And these times are uncertain, and we would bring to your memory times of comfort, times of forgiving, times when you have felt yourselves in alignment with all that is, with the awareness that however this world may move you while you are in it, that you are eternal, and that you grace this earth with what is love. Love is a fluidity of nature. It is the essence of who you are. It is the countenance of grace upon your face. It is the ease within which you whisper to a world, the ease of living. Love creates ease. Love knows no boundaries. Love in its fluidity can pour across any surface. It enables you to live within whatever chaos or extreme you may find and find your peace. It creates a river of illumination within you, which feeds your soul. There is no instant in this momentary lifetime that can draw upon the experience of love and not be changed by it. We ask yourselves to draw this to your hearts, to draw this into rhythm with your own breath, to be within the vibration of love, and it will transport you past, through, and beyond what you may find. Do you have questions?
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your connection and your energy. How will our notion of leadership around the world be shifting in the coming years?
There is not the same habit you have had of electorally choosing those which represent a small portion of delegates, where there is not, in actuality, a voice for the purpose of representing each person. This will no longer be the choice-making system. It will become a system of elevation made for the purpose of significant orchestration by the all. It will become a method by which you choose a leader. You choose those persons who will voluntarily forfeit what is in service to themselves for the all, who are in a state of embodiment that is in alignment with the greater truth of all beings. And the opportunity for their service is seen as one of absolving their nature of all that has truncated their worth, of all that has led them into their own whims and their own chaos. They will find a pathway through to leadership. It becomes a trial of truths, and the essence of who they are must emerge. And this then becomes the gateway to performing the trials of leadership in governance. Do you understand us? There are many, many forms of leadership that occur that are spiritual in nature. There is leadership between two persons, there is leadership within small groups, but we believe you speak politically. Is this correct?
Yes, yes, correct. And when you refer to the death of a leader, are you referring to that as a symbolic death or an actual physical death?
There is this occurrence that is happening on earth, truth, to a specific person, and has not occurred yet. This is yet unanswered. The specific obligation will pass.
Hmm. When you've spoken about this great flash of light that will emerge, that will be a before and after for humanity, I would love if we can go into a little bit deeper into the origins of this flash of light and its highest purpose for the earth, for humanity, for our consciousness, and why we've chosen to live through this great flash in our lifetime.
The elegance of nature is that all things come into harmony and balance eventually. All things teeter and totter in new directions at once and find their intermittent balance point. And this reframes all that came before and all that will come in the future. And the flash of light, as it is named, it will tame the over exuberant expression of your masculine delight. There is within each person an equal balance of masculinity and femininity. These are energies. These are not personalities nor gender assignments. These are the specifics of what is polarization within each body. These are the expansion and the release that each person contains. This is what binds you together into physical presence. This is what it is to be creative. However, in the polarity that you experience, there must be movement. It cannot be stasis. It cannot be as it is always. There must be change. There must be variety. Thus, the polarity is in evolution, and it does rotate and evolve over time. And it creates within itself a movement toward one hemisphere and then the other. And you are in this simple expression of what you are in a cosmic perspective. You become overexpressed in the nature of your divinity and you return to center, to balance. And at such a time in the future, you shall overextend in the other direction. Do you understand us?
I do. And you've also talked about how this great flash of light can also be followed with a period of days of darkness. You've also called days of surrender, quiet, separation. I'm really curious to know how this experience of going into this surrender and darkness is different from the ones that humanity experienced during the 2020 lockdowns and pandemic, where we were also separated to a degree and we're also in quiet and alone and in isolation. How is this going to be different from the prior times?
There's much confusion around this inquiry, for there are many labels and identifiers given to periods without light within your culture and communications. But the specific period we believe you are wishing for us to comment upon is the period surrounding the flash of light. This is a period of metamorphosis. This is not simply a period without illuminative force. It is a period within which you are in stasis, in which you are suspended, in which your life force is congealed within a container provided by us, by ourselves, within which you are able to redefine who you are from within, and from which you emerge after the specific process has been completed. And you will find yourselves as you have been bodily in formation with 2 eyes and 2 ears. But you will not have the same roots or the same focus going forward. It is a transformative process. It emerges from within. There is healing that will be done. Many are concerned with this. Healing occurs, this process, but it is not instantaneous. It occurs over time as the body renews itself. It must cycle through its own evolution in each of its bodily functions in order for that which has been harmful to emerge. Do you understand
Mm.
us?
Yes. And during this metamorphosis, how will our relationship with each other and technology shift going forward?
There will be a great change in this shift that you will experience. You personally, Emilio, will find yourself with greater gifting than you have understood previously. You will become aligned with a higher voice that speaks directly to you, and it will ricochet within your ears, and you will find yourself speaking in methods, in languages, in sequences you cannot understand at first. Thus, we do warn you in advance to be open, to guess not what it is, to allow it to flow, and the coherence will evolve. Do you understand us?
I do.
There will be for many, as they evolve from these circumstances, a shift in frequency. It is this. But what this does for humanity, it changes your perception. It alters the method by which you comprehend one another. You will see another through a new frame, not through the dialogue of the five senses, but through an additional gifting which will come almost instantaneously upon the shift and its completion. You become an energetic being attuned to a higher force and frequency. And from this perspective, the veil is thinner and you may see one another in more depth, in more completeness. You feel another's feelings. You know how they came to be. You feel what it is to be in their experience. And this unites you. This creates within and among you an end to loneliness.
Hmm. Is it possible to say that this light that we will all experience is a upgrade to our biological systems that will allow these new senses to then come online?
It is like this, but not entirely. There will be shifts in your biology as humanity, but not immediately. This occurs over time. Time in evolution, you will become increasingly light as embodiment, which is what you are already, but you exist in greater density in the moment. Over time, you will become increasingly light. But for the remainder of your incarnation, you remain as you are in physicality. However, your perception of what is physical will change. You will perceive things as vibration. You will perceive a tabletop, a computer, a microphone. These things seem physical, and yet they are not. They are vibration held close by an affinity for one another. And we say that you begin to diagnose each item as, yes, physical. You can stand upon a floor and yet you can see through it. You can see into it. It becomes something more fluid within which you have the ability to create change. Do you understand us?
Yeah. And what are the aspects or factors that have held us in density in prior times that we're now beginning to let go of?
Density comes from within. It is an assessment or a dialogue with the internal mind, internal heart, and self that there is not enough light within, that there is a lack of something, a meagerness of portion. And this then creates constriction and more depth and increasing depth until you tumble unto yourselves and find yourself in aloneness. And this then catapults you forward, as you are experiencing now, into an alternate experience, which eventually achieves balance. Do you understand us?
Yes, I do. What does it mean to be in the void, and how will it be affecting our evolution?
The void is an experience you will be having upon the execution of the flash of light which is coming. It will be as if all has separated from itself and you are at once suspended in mid-air in some circumstances, yes, as if all has become quiet and still. And you will find yourselves separated and segregated from one another in your own experience, isolated, alone. All will be cared for, all are well. Do not fear for those you love, they are also held. Within this experience, you are brought to an invitation. You are raised to a frequency, a higher pitch of being, and are given the opportunity to move forward into, to release and allow this experience to unveil for you. Some will not. Some will find fear during these experiences. They will not understand what is happening. They will wish for themselves to find safety. They will not welcome in these illuminative forces, and they will choose to become as they were. They are not forever disregarded by the light. They merely will wait until an opportunity rises within for them to reveal who they truly are. But for those who lean in, who desire and contain the will to experience this evolution, they will find a quiet voice within which has always been there, which is an aspect of their truth. It is what they are as a higher expressed being. This then moves through, up and through, and emerges from within you and becomes your new voice. It is a higher and increased capacity for light that you bring to the planet. It comes from within. It is an aspect already there which is dormant within you. It is in this lifetime that you have been born with two aspects within. This has not been thought of before. This is done differently now for yourselves. You have brought yourself incarnated with two aspects at once. The higher vibration aspect of who you are will contain all you've been through, all aspects of personality that are formed by life. Your memories, your relationships will all carry onward into this new voice. However, your perspective of all things will shift, more broad, more complete, more compassionate, more loving. You become this. Do you
Mm,
understand us?
I do. What what do you what would you say is the Earth's connection with the Orion constellation?
This is an origin point from whence you came. Not all beings on earth come from here, but many do. Many do, such as yourselves. And there are instrumentations within the body that recognize this origin point. In the process of your own elevation, you will find yourselves garnering the attention and the intermediation of many other beings that are not from this earth. They come because they have a relationship to you and what you are and what you have become. You are a garden for the universe. You contain the essence of many varieties of being. And this is one such origin point from which you have evolved. Do you
Mm.
understand us?
Yeah, and you mentioned our reconnection with our galactic family, and you've said also that their connection with us will not occur unless there is a path of world peace amongst us.
Correct.
What are some ways that we can accelerate this path of peace and harmony between each other, the countries as a whole, and really come into that space for ourselves to be able to open up our connection again with our
We are
galactic family?
very pleased with your questioning. We wish to advise yourselves that each and every one of you are important in this process, that your own healing peace within is how you will achieve peace externally. That your own dialogue with yourself, with loving what is, with your own experience that you have been having of learning to come into a truce, releasing resistance to what is true about you. What have you experienced that you wish never happened? What have you learned you wish you didn't know? All of these aspects must be brought into harmony within. You must find a pathway through which you guard against no part of yourself. This is peace internally. It is self love. It is the acceptance of all that is within you. It is the understanding of your journey. It is the welcoming back to all aspects of you. This is a parallel to the understanding and acceptance of all persons, of all races, of all personalities. It must happen within each individual, and we are pleased to say that many are deeply engaged in the work of this process. It is a process of conscious healing, consciously adapting yourself to what comes, what rises, what you experience on earth. It is consciously worked upon. Many are engaged in this process. It is already underway. World peace is possible. When you experience the flash of light, all will change within you, and it becomes a unique dialogue between persons. There is no longer the karmic constriction which you have experienced internally, all which you have laid in your path as harmful, as suffering, as difficulty. This no longer exists. It is for the purpose of learning that you have it now. This is why this occurrence of time is so precious for your own healing. It is a dialogue, very concrete, within which to mold your own understanding. But when you evolve into the higher vibration that comes, that is coming, that we have already seen, you will emerge without those structures. You will become more evolved. It will be easier for you to relate to one another from the perspective of peace. However, the higher mind must change. The greater the velocity of love that exists within the mind of humanity today, the brighter your future will become.
Beautiful. You've also mentioned that it is futile to fuel fearful thoughts related to abundance. So, what thoughts shall we be then fueling toward abundance and understanding that we are not living in lack or separation?
You are all that is required to live on earth. You contain all of the necessities. You are complete as you are. There is and will be nothing which you require to exist. You will become a self-fulfilling organism. Thus, you will not have lack. There is no poverty when you always have what you are. You become the essence of life. Life pours through you. You are a creative force. You may magnify what is, reduce what is not. You may create harmony where there is dysfunction. You have the ability to metabolize through living. You need not eat unless you are called to. You can live without fear. There's nothing harmful that is in dialogue with the expression of a life on earth. This does not mean you cannot be wounded, for the body is flesh. The body may be injured and then healed again. The body may reform itself. You will have many who are gifted in the process of keeping your earthly beings functioning well. But know yourselves to be orchestrated differently within the body. It will not be an experience as you have been having, where all things must be consumed for satisfaction. It will become an essence of what you are. You exist as you are, and you are fulfilled. Do you understand us?
Yes. And one of the last things that I would love to ask you is, I feel there has been a lot of misconception mainly due to religious institutions of the way that we pray and the way that we ask for divine assistance and guidance. So, in your perspective, what ways do the angels answer our prayers?
In all ways, we listen. We listen in all ways. We are energetically intertwining with yourselves. Even now, we are present in all ways. We are always listening. The messenger, we have been called. We are this, but not because we are in a dialogue with postal concerns. We simply magnify what is your message. We draw our focus to it. We place upon your will our grace. And through this, you are gifted the attention and the focus of the universe. We are always listening. We ask your prayers to grant us the allowance and the space to create from our own knowledge, to understand that we hold within ourselves a greater understandings of what you can be, of the total and encompassed realm of possibility. We can see beyond what you have been shown. Thus, when you craft your wishes, please leave room for what we may diagnose as alternate methods of fulfilling your wishes. Focus upon your desire to feel. How would you like to feel? What would you like to experience? And how will it make you feel? Leave us space to accomplish this goal with an understanding that we have visibility beyond where you are now. There are endless methods by which we can accommodate your wishes. Also, please understand that we will not allow you to wish upon something that is not for your very best expression in this life, for the plan you have made for yourself. We are always in alignment with your higher truth. We have this connection and dialogue with that which you are in your eternal presence. And we bring this into consciousness with each and every interaction. Thus, we will always guard you against wishing for things that are not good for you. Do you understand us?
I do. So, the more we focus on our desire and the feeling behind our desire, will that shift our perception of time and the amount of time that it will take for us to live out those desires if we focus on the feeling first?
The frame of reference of timing will change in the future, but for now, the accomplishment of your goals relates less to the intensity of desire and more to the conflicts that rise in between. Are you in alignment with what you are choosing? What parts of you will strain against this expression that you desire? Thus, to perceive yourself on a path upon your announcement of something you claim as a desire, you begin. And once you begin, you may come across, sometimes immediately, an obstacle in your path. You may find someone who relates a tale as to why you cannot do this thing. And sometimes you will feel discouraged and you will stop and start something else. But we encourage yourselves to understand the voyage differently. The appearance of someone who chastises you, who creates within you doubt of your process, is merely showing the doubt within you, is creating for you the first step on the path you have chosen, which is to heal your doubt. Each and every obstacle you come across is there to provide you the next step you must take in order to come into alignment with what you choose. It is a process of eliminating that which separates you from what you desire. The best way to understand what separates you from your desires is to comprehend what wounds you in your daily experience of life. Do you understand us?
Yes, that was very beautiful. And as a final message, what is the highest desire for the earth right now in relation to its own evolution and our co-evolution with the earth itself as a human race?
The earth is part of what you are, both physically and emotionally. She's pure, formed thought within herself. She is an expression of light as you are. And you are an expression from within what she has become. The physical embodiment of what you are stems from her expression of self. However, the soul that you are is not of this earth. The soul that you are is embodied within her. You become like her thoughts. You take on life within the framework of earth. You are a consciousness as one. The unity consciousness of humanity is shared by the earth. She thinks as your thoughts go. Thus, you are intertwined in this nature. She is in the process of her own evolution, as are you. She will shift, thus, you must shift if you choose to stay here. You cannot re emerge on this planet in the future unless you are made in tune with a vibration that she will hold, which will be and become what you are to achieve through this process of shifting. Do you understand us?
So the earth in the future will only allow incarnations of a higher degree or a higher frequency than now?
Correct. Thus,
Beautiful.
all souls who choose not to undergo the shift in frequency at this time, they are offered no judgment of any kind. They are not doing anything wrong. They may simply decide for themselves that their path of growth is best answered in a karmic construct. And when this is the case, they will live their life in this incarnation to its fulfillment. And when they pass on, they will migrate to a new system, planetary system designed for this purpose, which is enabling them to live on within the karmic construct they have chosen. But it will not be Earth. Do you understand us?
I do. A very clear message, angels. It's always a gift to be able to speak with you and connect. And I look forward to connecting again as well. Much love.
We bless you. We thank you and say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank
Coach put you back in.
Great to be back. So what did I miss? What did you guys talk about?
A lot.
I don't doubt it. You ask great questions.
I know that sometimes some images will stay with you through a channeling session. Is there anything in specific that...
I know you talked about the earth, and they showed me the earth as a personality. They showed me her. So I was seeing that. So I can remember things. I don't remember, like, it's hard to remember in order, but that's the thing that first comes to mind is I saw the earth. I saw them showing that our bodies are of the earth, but our souls aren't. I saw that. I saw that the soul, they showed me the soul is something separate that is chosen to incarnate and become part of the earth. And so, but that the physical body is made from the earth. And then they showed a collective consciousness that we all share. And it was interesting. They showed how the collective consciousness and the earth, it's almost like our collective consciousness is the ego of the earth. It's very funky. Like there was her soul, and then there was our collective consciousness, which is almost the way we relate to like our soul and our ego. So it was interesting to see that. It was like, here is this thing that was clearly influencing her. So like our anger, our wars, all our junk she's trying to process and clear all of that right now. Yeah. Which is interesting.
Yeah. And toward the end, they said that in the future, the earth will no longer be a karmic construct. So souls that choose that path for themselves, they'll have to incarnate into a different planetary system, they said. Talking about karma for a moment, I think I heard this from you breaking down one of their messages was that it is only the soul itself who endows karma. And it's
Yeah,
not like we're getting punished or judged by someone else or by another.
absolutely.
It's the
Yeah.
soul that creates the karma.
Yeah, I think it is
Mm.
so like it's. I think one of the hardest things about so many of our organized religions is they are so disempowering and they are hurtful. Like many of them teach us that we are going to be judged, that there's an inherent right and wrong about behavior, and if you don't do it this way, then you're not going to get to come along, and you're not going to be loved, and you're going to be excluded, and all these things, and it's not true. It's not true that we have infinite choice as souls. And there is a certain amount of like physics about being a soul, which is that it's our vibration. How high is our vibration? And so I always think of like when we cross over, like people talk about, is there a hell, or is there like there are levels of vibration on the other side. I see it as like when we cross over and we go into the light, it's almost like the light is a filter. And it's like, how much love can you hold? Which is, how bright are you? And the more love you can hold, the closer you go to source. And if you can only hold a little bit because your heart is really closed and really wounded and you're really working and you're still learning to understand yourself, you're not going to go very deep into that light. And then you're going to be at a level with a lot of other people who are also in that same frequency. The closer you get, it's like the more, and then you get to be with others who are going to be a similar frequency as what you are. But the whole idea of karma, this idea that there's going to be this external person who says you are bad and you have to take this lesson, or you did a crummy thing and now you're going to get punished for it. Nope. It is not that it's not that it is always a process of learning about ourselves. So what happens normally is we cross over, we go through a life review, we see, and not only do we see our whole lives, but we understand and experience our life from everybody else's perspective. So everyone we've hurt, we feel how we've hurt them. Everyone we've done amazing things for, we feel how we blessed them. And it's often going to be the things that are the most inconsequential, the things where we had no ego involvement, where we just did it just because, but it made a difference to that person. Those are the things we're going to see and feel and be amazed by, right? But there may be some things that we do say, gosh, I wish I had done that differently. Or if I could go back again, I would have changed that. So that becomes a karmic thing that we do for ourselves. And karma can be positive or negative. It can be a thing where I say, well, part of my karma I want to plan for my life is I want to come through as a healer and I want to serve others and I want to make that part of my task for this life. So it could be a really positive thing too.
Mm. Yeah, and it was also really interesting that they talk about this flash of light as a very tangible, real, internal and external experience. So
Yes.
whenever they're talking about that light, what imagery do you get from this event? Because it feels like it's going to be something that we're going to see, we're going to feel, we're going to
Yeah.
like very
Yeah.
tangible.
They recently called it a rainbow something or other, like a rainbow starlight. Like it's coming from a solar energy, a star of some sort. And I think, right after they said that, I saw images of people who saw Aurora Borealis and it was rainbow colored. So that it must be like an Aurora Borealis to end all Aurora Borealises. Like it must be just like an intense, but I think it will affect us like that. Like I think it will look like, based on that message and then what I saw recently, I'm guessing it's going to be like crazy rainbows, which is amazing. Like that'll be incredible. But I also think that it was going to freak a lot of people out. And I do think there's darkness associated with it. I think that that's why I think there's so many discussions about the 3 days of darkness. Like the angels have talked about, I think there'll be a period right before it occurs where it's almost like a tidal wave where the water goes out right before and then it comes in. I think it's like that. I think it's like light goes out and then whoosh, it comes in. That could be because they've talked about there'll be a period where we will have no communication, where it's like almost like all the communication is down. It's a period of, and we're meant to go internal. We're meant to go quiet. And during that period, they said, so when we go through this period of darkness, they said it's really important that we that we go internal, that we stay in love. Don't get fearful or worried about the way that it's dark outside. Like it's gonna, and even if it means like there's no moon or there's no stars, like I don't know, it might be that dark. I have no idea. But they said that to stay grounded, to stay in love, to stay in your own vibration, basically like close the blinds, close the windows, like just stay in your own vibe. Then they said you will start to feel heavy in the body. And when you start feeling heavy in the body, they say go ahead and lie down. And this is going to be the process of releasing the karma. So they said, lay down, and that is when we enter the cocoon state. And basically, they've called it as like a heavy blanket going over us. It'll feel like pressure. Your body will feel physically heavy. And and I can relate to this because when I first started channeling the angels, I felt them like it was heavy. And that's the difference in frequency. So as we're trying to lift up and move out of this density and into a higher frequency, everything that's heavy in us is going to pull, is going to feel like weight in our body. So imagine all your wounding, everything that you're carrying right now, you're going to be trying to lift out of it, and it's just going to pull on you. So you got to just breathe through it, just lay there, just let it happen. We don't have to do a thing. They're going to do all of it. All we got to do is chill. So just lay down and chill out. They want us to be, if you can stay like somewhat aware, they want us to be as much as we can to kind of be aware. And as images come up, as memories come up, if you feel like crying, cry. If stuff rises, let it. Just don't resist. That's the key thing, to just trust the process and just let it flow through you.
Yeah, I mean, I know hopefully I'll be chilling, but I also know that a lot of people will go immediately to what are the news outlets saying about this darkness. And I'm sure they will conjure up a scientific explanation of some sort.
Oh, for sure. It'll be
to like
aliens
keep the calm
or something. Yeah, totally.
But
Totally.
what are some things we should be wary of? Because they have talked about also this like distrust in the media that will occur.
Yeah.
So when, this event, when it occurs and people are tuning into the mainstream media outlets,
Yeah.
what are some things that you think we should be wary of around their messaging around this?
What's coming about, or when this happens?
When
I'm
it
hoping
happens.
that it will be a thing that people who are on a spiritual path will be either listening to their own hearts or will have heard people talking about this and will know that this is the time to just go internal. The big message is stay in love, stay out of fear. And then I'm also hoping that those of us who are on the path who are around others can say, okay, just chill out, stay in love, get out of fear, go internal. But there will be people who are very, very, it's really about head versus heart. Those of us who are trying to solve it up here are going to be really panicked, because what we do when we're up here is we say, okay, there's a problem I need to solve. I am responsible for fixing this, and I don't know what to do. And that creates enormous anxiety in people. It's the feeling of I have to do something and I don't know what it is. That is a recipe for anxiety. And so people will feel an enormous amount of it. Like, how do I fix this? Is this going to be dangerous? Do I have to protect myself or others? Or they're going to be running around trying to figure it out. And that's going to create and that anxiety will be resistance to the experience. So they will have to just get through it, and it will stop and get to the other side. And then all of a sudden, the angels have said that this will be the moment that everybody looks back on and say, this is the moment that everything changed. So we will be changed by this. But those of us who are open, all you got to do is be open. And like I said, there is no judgment in that, because anybody who is not open in the moment, they have the rest of their lives to open, right? They will come through it, and then they will notice, oh, wow, you have changed and I have not. How do I do that? And that, I think, is why there are so many light workers on the planet, because as we come through this, we'll be on the other side. There's going to be a massive rise in interest in spiritual things as people are trying to figure out, like, wow, your life seems to be pretty awesome. You're kind of glowy. How do you get the glow? You know what I mean? They're going to be looking for it, and they're going to be looking for help. So I think it's going to be an amazing time of opening.
Yeah. And just as you mentioned this, like before and after, I feel like for a lot of us, the pandemic was, before and after 2020.
Yeah.
And, that lasted a lot more than 3 days. But
yeah.
How do you think this event would be slightly different than our experience of the lockdowns that we had a few years ago?
Yeah. I think this is not a thing that is going to be, I think it will be unexpected. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of events leading up to this, that there's going to be a lot of chaos that we have to go through to get there. So that is unfortunate, but it's part of the process. It's an unwinding, and it's unwinding the power structures and everything else and it's just part of the healing that we're trying to go through. We're trying to learn as much about ourselves as we possibly can before this occurs, because this is the most potent healing environment that we have. Then we also know the more we heal, the brighter our new future will become. The new future doesn't exist yet. It's not baked yet. That it doesn't exist until we get there. We raise up, and then it emerges from inside of us. So we are the creators of the new reality. So the higher we can get in terms of the clearer we can get in our field and on our healing, the better that future will be. So that's why this period is just so incredibly valuable. But I think leading up to it, there's going to be there's going to be a lot we have to go through. There's going to be economic turmoil. There's going to be political turmoil. There's going to be war. There's all kinds of stuff that we would rather not have. But the angels have said over and over again, if people are worried about that, to know that they said, even now we create our own reality, that if we are in love, we are creating from love, that you can live in an environment of total chaos and you are still absolutely okay. And they've said, and look at that right now, if you look at around yourselves, and I always bring my mind back to the four walls around me, that we are living in a world where there is enormous tragedy happening. Even this exact moment, there's terrible things happening in this world. But you are in a safe place, right? You are in a place where, and everybody who's listening to you right now, they are in a place where they have access to technology and they've got a roof over their heads, or where are they? They're in a safe place, right? They are not in the middle of a war zone. And I know there are some people who are, but my point being, and that's a whole nother conversation about why someone would choose to have that experience. But my point being is
that's a deep one.
That's a deep one.
I would love to open that up if you're down.
yeah. It is very deep. The angels have talked about that a little bit. They've talked about why would someone come in and have some of these terrible things that are going to happen. We talk about tsunamis and stuff. Why would someone choose to be born and come into a place where there's going to be a tsunami? And the angels have said that in the wars that are happening right now, there's enormous clearing that's happening for the earth, that the people that are in those war zones are doing an enormous service for humanity, for the collective consciousness, because they are going through deep, deep wounding, right? They're in a process of healing. That is a healing process that's happening for humanity. And it's terrible. It's terrible that it's happening this way, but there is a spiritual benefit. So there's a way that it's not for nothing, in other words. And then there's also another piece of it that we have to understand as people are going through this, is that anybody who passes during these dramatic events will not be in their bodies when they die, that they do not experience the difficulty of death. They're taken before the trauma. And they're brought in me. And then the other big reason why people would have signed up for this is because when we decide to come into a human incarnation, it's a gamble. We assume when we're on the other side, we're send me in. I'm going to do great. I can't wait. Let me at him. You know what I mean? We want to go. But then we get here and the veil comes down and we don't remember a thing. And we forget who we are. And it's very possible to come down on earth and to go on the wrong path. It's very possible to take a bunch of wrong turns and end up in a really dark place and actually set back as a soul. It's very possible to do that, actually lose ground as a soul. So
it's a big risk. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a risk. It's an absolute risk. But when we're on the other side, we're so full of no, I can do it. Let me in. And it's a huge opportunity because most people, will at least learn something when they're down here. Most of us will grow even a little bit. Some of us grow a ton when we're down here. But Earth is the place that can transform us the most. But it's possible to go the wrong direction. So the beauty of coming in at this time and coming into a situation like that, to a place where you're going to be in one of the tidal zones or in a war or something, is that if they lose their lives, if they cross over, it is an instant upgrade. They instantly get moved to the higher elevation or the higher frequency. So it's like a guaranteed ticket is what it is. So there's a bunch of different reasons why they would come. It helps the collective and it's a guaranteed ticket. So it's kind of like dying for love. It's the same thing. Yeah. If you die for love, it's an automatic soul upgrade. It's like that love just grows so much more in you, right? It's to sacrifice yourself for love. It's such a purifying experience that it elevates your soul. So everybody that's coming in that loses their life in those experiences, who may lose their life in those experiences, would be like that, like dying for love.
And because of the people that weren't involved in, something like a tragedy of like a flood or whatever it was, it opens the heart of the people that weren't involved because,
yes,
we're empathetic to those that, had to lose their life in order to, help us wake up and shake us up to a new understanding.
Agree. Yeah, and I think that's part of shifting the collective consciousness. I think it is one of those things where it's just you cannot not see it, and it's part of what's causing us to wake up. So it's a purpose. It's not easy. It's, I mean, when we're in our human bodies and we're just like, why on earth would we make it so hard on ourselves? Like, can't we just read a book? Can't we just learn this from a book? And they're like, nope, you got to feel it. The feelings are what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also asked about our connection to Orion because I know,
Oh,
there's been a lot of speculation on the Betelgeuse star. Is that supernova the light that we're gonna see? They said, I mean, I don't know if you remember any of this part of the channeling, but what I took from it is that they said that Orion was a point of origin for a lot
yeah.
of us that are here right now. So like there's a deep connection, and then they got into how we're reconnecting also with our galactic family as
Very
well,
cool. Very
as we move
cool.
into world peace. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Yeah. And they've talked about that before in some previous messages about how, yeah, that they said that they will come and they will help us with like specific things with specific things about living will become easier. So they'll help us with healing technology, with travel, specifically moving off planets. They're going to help us to leave the planet, which will be very
Mm.
cool. So we're supposed to become galactic citizens. That's a big part of this shift is we become like members of the bigger community out there, which is kind of amazing to think about.
Yeah. And will the United States not be so united anymore?
Not so much, no. They've consistently said that the United States will split. And they said that it's already in process. I think that this could be much sooner than, like, I think this could be, I'll be very curious to see what happens around the election and then heading into the rest of the year. But yeah, but it looks like the election will be very, not what we expect it to be. And there may be events in the meantime, like they've been speaking more specifically, like economic stuff. There's some stuff that really, I think, where it causes people to lose faith, in the government, in the banking system, in our media. There's a big loss of faith in the U.S., and that causes this rupture. It's kind of the faith piece is like the precursor, and then it's like the physical rupture of the earth, of the United States. And yeah, but they said it's not a civil war. It is that where states just say, we're not going to play anymore. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to go be our own thing over here.
Hmm. Well, it's
Yeah.
so interesting because I've also spoken to some channelers that are channeling future humans. This is a session we
Yeah.
had with Pamela Erlin, and not in our specific episode together, but she's channeled humans from the future that are living in a time of like 2050, 2070. And
Wow.
they talk about the US segregated into three different, kind of creations, and one
Yeah.
was called like the New Earth Order, and they had specific names for it, and it was super interesting to see. I don't know if they've also talked about other countries outside of the US, maybe
Wow.
like because I live in most of the year in the European Union,
Yeah.
and there's a
Yeah.
lot of listeners from this show that are in Europe. So
Yeah.
have they spoken into anything about like the restructuring of other countries outside of the US?
I think that they haven't spoken about like any kind of, I mean, other than, I don't know, I don't think the euro will be around. But other than that, they haven't spoken about like countries dissolving, or that's really a US thing. But the US, the reason the angels focus on the US sometimes is not only am I here and I'm the channel, but also because it ripples out and affects the rest of the world in a big way. So yeah, so it's almost like this is the start, and then it kind of spreads and goes around the world. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they mentioned different things. They've talked about China. They've talked about like different regions at different times, but I can't think of like very specific messages about. Like, I think it's going to be. I don't think it's a hotbed, but it's involved. The whole world is involved in all this change. Yeah, I think that the war is going to be one of the difficult things that we have to go through. And I don't know where all that war goes. I do know that China, like they said, China exerts its control over Taiwan. They said that Japan then tries to rally the rest of the world against China. So it's a much broader war, I believe. But then if they said eventually China becomes like it's almost like it breaks down, and the central government, they said there will be no more central government in China, that it's like it dissolves, and then there's other whole issues around that. But in the meantime, we have to deal with trade embargoes and like stuff where it's like they said shipping would be catastrophic. So there's just going to be, like, when we go into all this stuff, it can start sounding really, really heavy. But the thing the angels always bring us back to is look local, is start building your local communities, find people around you, get your needs met locally. We may be through a period where rather than buying something new, we have to repair what we have, and that's not so bad. We can do that.
Yeah. So, and you are the biggest student of your own channeled teachings and messages. And I love how on your YouTube channel, you will show, a segment of the channeling and then go in for like 45 minutes and break down what they said, like in detail, in depth. I'm curious to know, is there any recent channeled messages that, you're human and has struggled to understand and wrap your mind around? Because I get that sometimes when I'm listening to, higher perspectives, and my human's like, wait, what do you mean? Like, what's going on?
What are you talking about? I know.
Has there been any of that you've kind of,
Yeah.
played
It is
around with?
actually amazing to me right now. I'm trying to take all of the messages I've gotten about the shift and put them into a book. And I started getting those messages in the end of 2020, and they're up through today. So some of the messages I haven't really looked at because I'm usually like working forward. I don't usually go back and read the old ones. And it's amazing to me now going back and looking at some of those messages, how I understand them in a totally new light. Now that I've got so much more context and depth, I thought I understood them before, but now I'm like, oh my gosh, like a sentence that before I kind of just passed over because I didn't think it was meaningful. Now I go back and I'm like, oh my gosh, they mentioned it way back here and I didn't even understand it, just be like 3 or 4 words. And it jumps out at me. And it was, I didn't get it before because the context wasn't there because I hadn't had enough history yet and I hadn't learned enough yet. So yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that's still happening today, but I don't know what I don't know.
And the more, we raise our consciousness, then these messages can be digested in a new way.
Yes.
And sometimes it will take a couple listens just to, and I think we said this in our first conversation where words are just the costume.
Yes.
And that's been one of the biggest teachings for me because, if we focus so much on like our vocabulary and the way that we say a sentence and these things, we sort of lose ourselves in the intellect rather than really feeling into what the message is. And I feel like listening to the angels puts us in a state of just receiving it with our hearts. At least for me, when you did the grounding exercise, I just felt everything that they were saying. They had a specific message for me, which was really interesting.
Oh, what did they say?
What I remember, and I'll definitely have to go back to it, is that they mentioned that after the flash, for me, there will be like this opening of a sixth sense perception where I'm going to be in direct communion with a higher mind. And I was like, whoa. And I got chills throughout my whole
ears.
body.
I remember that. They were showing me your ears and stuff coming. Yeah. So it was definitely you hearing things. It was and they showed me confusion at first. So they showed me ears and then confusion in the beginning. And they were trying to tell you to not worry, to not like, I'm losing my mind. No, you're not. Just like be chill. It'll all sort itself out. But in the beginning, they're showing me now that it's like trying to tune the rate, like one of those old radios, and you're turning the dial so they're like in the beginning, it'll kind of freak you out is what they're saying. Yeah. So just be chill and know that it's just, it'll get synchronized is how they're describing it. Yeah.
So what advice would you have for someone that is on the brink or precipice of opening their psychic perception, and might be in that confusion state?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I would say that, it's so exciting. Like that was the thing that first got me on my spiritual path was like, what's going on with my, I had all these crazy psychic experiences and it's so fun, right? That when you start having these physical experiences of like, yes, there's actual proof I'm getting that there's something beyond just me, it's incredible and exciting. And then the possibility that you can then use it to have that, a divine connection for yourself is just so amazing. So it's a super exciting experience. And I would say in the beginning, there's so many things I would say about trying to encourage people. But I would say that the hardest thing about whatever your spiritual gifts are is the desire to do it, the desire to be right, the desire to not, to have it work. It's almost like we're always afraid that it's not true. We're always afraid that it's not like it's that. So it's like a healer. It gets really wrapped up in healing the person. And if the person doesn't get healed, they feel like it's a reflection on them when it never is. Right? Yeah. They failed. They feel like, and then they doubt the connection or the channel. They're worried to say what they see because what if it's wrong? They don't want to be wrong, because they think about what it means. If it's wrong, is my connection wrong? Is my own, like there's all these layers to it. And I would say the truth of all of it is that you got to trust the connection. And if you're a healer and you're trying to heal someone, it is they heal themselves. All you can do is flow the energy, and then they can decide if they're going to open to it or not. And if they don't open, you can't get in. So if they don't heal, it's not your fault. So you have to just be in this place where you have to release ego. And by ego, I don't mean like I'm awesome. I mean like I want to do it right. We have to release that. We have to be totally willing to be wrong. We have to willing to say because sometimes if you end up channeling, sometimes you will tell somebody something and you're like, I know that's what I got. And they'll say, that doesn't make any sense at all. Like, I didn't get that. And they will leave and be like, he is so full of poop or whatever. And then 4 months later, they will call you out of the blue and say, you changed my life. Right? As soon as I left, I realized how that was accurate, and you totally, and you wouldn't even, and that happened to me before. I remember years ago, I gave a session to someone, and at the session, I could feel that it just was like, she felt distant. I felt like, and I didn't feel like I was moving the energy. It just was, and I was judging myself and blah, blah, blah. And then but I had to kind of set it aside. You just got to pick yourself up and keep on going. And then years later, I hear from her out of the blue, and she's like, that session changed my life. All this time I've been like, yeah, I stunk. Isn't that
it's
funny?
because the angels are outside time. So maybe they're looking into future potentials as well.
Yeah, it's so true. So I would just say that's the hardest thing. And same thing, like I said, with a channel, that what will happen when somebody's channeling is they will get a crazy thing and they won't say it because they will feel crazy. And then the person will talk and the person will validate that thing, and they'll be like, oh, I wish I said it, But you just got to say what you see, say what you feel. And don't worry about being wrong. It's really hard to get over the fear of being judged. And there's so much around this about like, there's so much suspicion about like, is that person tuned in, or are they making it up or whatever, that I get it. It's not easy. And I have been down that path of coming out as the angel lady, and it's not easy. It's not easy to come into a room of people who are agnostic or whatever and say, I'm channel angels, and all the preconceived ideas they might have, or maybe they have no preconceived ideas, because not many people say that, but but it's part of the journey, is getting to that place where if you want the gifts to come in strong, you got to trust it, and you got to be willing to be wrong.
Yeah. My friend Blue says, I know truth by the way that it feels.
Yes.
So it's like really being in tune with our own internal perception of what we're hearing. Does it feel good? If it doesn't feel good, then let it go. Like don't worry about it.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I think of it too, is like when you hear truth, it almost feels like you somehow knew it before. Like that's how it lands easy. It lands softly, because even if you've never heard it before, there's some part of you that's like, oh, like it feels like there's an inner part of knowing, an inner knowing. And when it's not true, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. That feels jarring to my body. Like that doesn't fit anywhere on me, Then I feel like, yeah, that's not for me.
Yeah. And that's okay. And for some people, it might be exactly what they needed to hear in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's all the surface. Yeah, absolutely.
So as you know, and we end every podcast with a segment called the Final Trio, which are just rapid questions at the end.
Yes.
Before that, where would you send people to connect with you even further, work with the angels, work with you and your healing? Where would you guide people to make more connection with you?
Yeah. I'm easy to find. It's all under my name. It's on YouTube, AnnTucker.com, or Ann Tucker on YouTube, which is Ann with an E, and my website, AnnTucker.com. If people would like to have a deep experience with the angels, I'd love to invite them to my retreat coming up in October, which is going to be in Seattle. It's going to be bringing in the Mother of Creation as well as the angels, and it's the Expand Your Heart retreat. And I'm super excited for it. So it's amazing to spend that time in person with the angels. Is incredible to experience them firsthand.
Is this your first retreat in person?
No, I've been doing retreats for a while, but this is going to be the first one where I'm bringing in the Mother of Creation. So it'll be really cool. I'm really excited to see how it changes.
How do you, so when you're channeling the angels and now the new guide is coming in, is this something that you like your intention, you say, I want to bring in the Mother of Creation, I want to bring just the other angelic team. Like, how do you
How does it happen?
differentiate
I
who
very
you bring
much,
in?
I'm the vessel at the event. So I will channel before the event to kind of get some, like, this is what we're going to be doing, or kind of get a general, because there's usually sort of a theme. There's something that we're kind of working together as a group. Sometimes we will do things that are sort of for the benefit of humanity. Like sometimes we will bring a specific energy through, or do things that are meant to shift the consciousness, or it'll be healing around a specific theme. So there's always wisdom to it, to the retreats. It's a container. We step into the container, and it's very much guided by the angels. But I literally just show up and I open up and I try to stand out of the way, and then they come through, and it's pretty incredible, and amazing things have happened, and amazing things. And I don't always know. Like I've had, like, one amazing experience was when Yeshua came through. And he led the entire, like, because I'll channel multiple, we do multiple sessions during the day. And it was the whole session. And it was so, the most incredible, I can't even tell you. I mean, honestly, he was in the room. Everybody could feel him. It was like we were in a round room and he was in the center, and he was bigger than a human. And he was speaking, his voice was coming through me, but I swear to you, it would be almost as if a mirror was turning and you would catch glimpses. He was there. It blew everybody was sobbing. It was incredible. It
Wow.
was absolutely incredible. And
Oh,
he shared the most insane, I mean, it's the message. I've since shared the message on YouTube. And he said that when he was embodied, he said it could be one, because what needed to come was an idea, and it could be shared by one person. And he said, now it has to be many. It has to be you. And he says now that we have to shift the collective consciousness from within, and it takes many to shift the collective consciousness. So it can't be. So Christ consciousness comes through all of us, and it's this idea of compassion, and it moves through us and to shift the collective. But he says, yeah, it can't be. There's not going to be a second coming in the sense of another, birth of him where he comes and he's the leader and he does it all. He's like, no, you guys are doing it. It's all, you are the rising, is what it is. Yeah.
that's very beautiful. And I wish I was there to experience
Oh God.
Yeshua through
Yeah.
you. Wow.
It was a definitely an amazing experience. Like, wow.
For the final trio, the first one I had for you, Anne, is the love that the angels have for humanity is very felt when you're channeling them. But
Yeah.
if you were to put into words the love that they have for us, what would they say?
Oh my gosh, reverence. They feel reverence for us. It is this, we are like holy, we are sacred. It's this thing of, like, we think of them as being like angels. They are like we are equal to the angels. They don't ever want us to put them on a pedestal, because that separates from us from them. So they're not separated from us, but it is as reverent as you would be with, like, yeah, I mean, like, I think of like newborn baby, but it's like, because of the purity of it, but it's powerful too. It's that we are the spark of the divine. They are the light of the divine. We are the spark of the divine. We create from within us. We create our reality. We emanate our reality. And they see that spark of the divine. They see us as an aspect of source. So it's reverence.
Beautiful. I feel like we opened up with that energy and our intention with the
Yeah.
reverence. So
Yeah.
bringing it back full circle. And you've also said that whatever we lose, it's because we don't need. So what is humanity losing or no longer needing right now?
I think there's so many things about what we think we need right now. We think we need for survival, right? We need a job, we need a home, we need food, we need all these things for survival. What if survival was no longer an issue? What if survival was de facto? What do you need? Right? You need love, you need companionship, friendship, you need a purpose, right? You need a reason for living. That it all changes. The whole discussion changes. And yeah, it becomes all about the heart.
I love that. And last time we were here, the final question was the time capsule question.
Yes.
And at the end of that, you could ask a question for the next generation of leaders. And I sort of wanted to turn it back onto you in a way, because the question that you left for them was, what do you want? So I wanted to ask you, Anne, if you were willing to open up in your own wants and needs, what do you want right now for your
Oh
life?
my gosh. I would love, like in my own wants, like for me, what I would love, I would love to be in a position where I could take the work that I do and make it freely available. Like, I would love to be in a position where I could eventually have some sort of a, like, what would my life's work be? Like a legacy I could leave behind would be, how do I make it where everybody knows how to heal themselves? Where everybody has access to the work. And it's not feasible, like, I've got, in order to do the work that I do, I have a whole team and people need support. They need a lot of support. So it would need to be a foundation. I would need to have a well-funded foundation where I was able to pay for people to have support, because they need one-on-one, they need that. So that would be my wish. That's what I would love. So we'll just see. We'll see how life evolves, but I would love that. That would be amazing, because the thing that makes me joyful is when, like, seeing other people have their own transformations. That is what absolutely ignites me.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky that's the work I get to do.
Yeah. And it's like you said, when we're connecting with the angels, we have to speak our wants out loud, because if we don't, then they'll just stay like bottled up inside. But
Yeah.
now here we're, whatever you want. That's why I wanted to give you that space, whatever you want, putting it out there, and it'll just land for people, and the right people will be drawn to it and to help you and support you, because you've been supporting so much of us. So,
Thank you.
Tucker, thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
this
much.
beautiful space that we shared. I would love to just continue our conversations. It's always a
I love
gift.
it. I love coming. You create such a beautiful sacred space for the conversation. I just love chatting with you. So thank you so much.
Always welcome.